Hello there! Today I will be reacting to Germany's finance minister reacting to Trump tariffs from the channel of DW News. This is gonna be very interesting. Since these tariffs are pretty much affecting the whole world, I really like watching this type of videos to see how every country reacts to this whole situation that is pretty crazy. Oh my god, it's so fucked up. I still cannot believe it. I feel like that's pretty much everyone's thoughts in their minds. So yeah, let's check it out. Let's check out how everything is being handled and spoken about it in Germany.
We're joined now by Germany's finance minister, Jörg Kukies. He's here in Berlin. Minister Kukies, thanks for being with us. What are you expecting to hear from President Trump?
Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you. What are you expecting to hear from the president?
We've seen all the announcements that substantial tariffs will be introduced today, but we have no further information as to the specifics. I had some conversations in Washington last week and got a bit of a sense, but we're waiting for details for tonight.
Yes, I understand you met with...
Bro, his accent in English is fantastic. I really love it.
The U.S. Treasury Secretary and U.S. Trade Representative last week, and that you emphasized there that no one would benefit from an escalating trade conflict. The U.S. president seems impervious to that argument. Do you see any room...
Yeah, I mean... Everyone seems, I can watch this video in pretty much every language, every different person throughout the world, and everyone is saying the same things. It's not gonna be beneficial neither for the US or for another country. I was just listening to, was it a Spanish podcast, I think, was the Spanish news. They were talking about they were about to introduce like 50 or 60% tariffs on Vietnam because Vietnam wasn't buying enough stuff from the US. They were just exporting stuff like the Nike shoes. I mean, what the fuck should Vietnamese be buying from the US? I mean, these tariffs are totally crazy. I've heard a couple of days ago they were trying to raise them up even more from China. This is so crazy. But yeah, let's check out the video.
To negotiate with the Trump administration.
Well, we are working under the assumption that the announcement today will offer opportunities to negotiate, and everyone I spoke with in Washington last week said that in principle there is a willingness to continue the dialogue and to discuss. But of course, first of all, we'll have to evaluate what is announced today before starting negotiations and deciding on how to respond.
Of course. Trump's 25% tariff.
Bro, this is so crazy. Like, how? I mean, I know that in Germany, your level of English is way higher than in Italy or most other Western countries, Western European countries. But his English is flawless. I mean, Meloni's English isn't too bad, but most Italian politicians can barely even speak Italian. And him speaking English so perfectly, wow, this is amazing. Wow. I wish our politicians would speak more English like that.
Tariff on foreign automobiles, however, is pretty clear already. That tariff also applies to parts, critically. That goes into effect this week. That will hit German car makers very hard. Minister Kukies, how damaging will this be to Germany's economy?
Well, it will also hit U.S. consumers very hard because, of course, as your report correctly illustrated, cars will get more expensive in the United States, including the cars produced by German automakers in the United States. And also, as your report said correctly, German automakers manufacture much more cars in the United States as they import from Europe. So in that sense, the disproportional effect will actually be in the United States. But of course, it will also hit the competitiveness of the exporting side, but it hits the competitiveness of the exporting sides on both sides of the Atlantic. And that's what we continue to argue and continue to say, that this is a proposal that is actually disadvantageous to both sides.
But you are Germany's finance minister. You must have played through this scenario in pretty much detail. I'm just wondering what you're anticipating in terms of damage to the German economy from these tariffs.
Well, I mean, it's obviously very difficult to quantify that, but it will be a substantial impact, substantial adverse impact. But as I said, it's a substantial adverse impact for everyone affected, and that's why we are so keenly arguing to negotiate and to think about how we should go about addressing the issues that the United States government is raising in a partnership kind of negotiation where the end result could actually be a net reduction of tariffs. To us, in the document that is the basis for forming the new government, both sides actually propose a free trade area between the European Union and the United States. That takes care of all asymmetries because we would then reduce all tariffs to zero, and then there wouldn't be any discrimination by definition. So in our view, that would be the most advantageous and competitiveness enhancing measure for both sides.
Well, let's talk about where things stand right now. The EU charges 10% on U.S. car imports, whereas the U.S. tariff on EU imports was at least previously 2.5%. Quite a difference there. Trump's argument is essentially that this is not fair. Does he have a point?
Well, first of all, your argument is not complete because for certain types of vehicles, the United States actually charges 25% already. So as always, if you pick out individual components of the trade relationship, you will always find areas where the U.S. charges more and those where the European.
Yeah, but I read about this whole thing because I couldn't understand it. Like, he keeps saying that everyone is taking advantage of the US and whatever, that more stuff is being imported than exported. But what he doesn't really take in consideration is like all the services, like the US or the services that comes from the US are pretty much like all over the world. And those are like basically so much more than the stuff that are being exported. It doesn't seems to take that into consideration. I don't really know. I don't know. I mean, I really would love, I feel like everyone would love to know why this whole thing came up. I don't think that Donald Trump just decided from one day to the other, look, we're gonna do this or whatever. I think there's something behind it for sure. And I have no idea. This is so scary.
Union charges more, and that's why I'm saying the easiest way to assure balance and fairness is if everyone goes to zero, and then we have free trade and efficiency, economies of scale. We can think about standardization and mutual market access and many other things, so that there would be a much better way to actually reduce tariffs on both sides symmetrically, rather than now competing on who charges higher tariffs in which areas.
So do you see, with the incoming government that will have to negotiate with Trump, do you see a prospect for a free trade agreement with the United States, with this Trump administration? Is that realistic?
Well, I think that is more an aspirational goal. I think at the moment, as we're seeing the direction of travel on the U.S. side is certainly higher tariffs rather than lower. But the key is to send a signal that we are willing, up to including reducing tariffs all the way to zero, to discuss all options. Of course, if it's something in between, then that's also good, as long as there's a fair and balanced solution that net decreases tariffs rather than increase them.
Minister Cookies, thank you very much for talking with us today. That was Germany's finance minister, your cookies.
Many thanks for inviting me.
Wow. I mean, it was actually a delight to listen to this to this Germany's finance minister talk. Wow. I mean, it was such a delight to hear him speak, actually. Yeah, let's just hope that this whole situation will get settled in some ways. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Of course, I'm going to include the link if you want to check out the original interview, the original video here in the description of this video. I want to know everyone's thoughts on this because I really like to listen, or better said, read all considerations from other people in Europe that are being affected about these tariffs. And yeah, instead of just listening to the people from my country that will say their own thing. Yeah, I feel like we could learn much more this way. So thank you so much for watching. Hope you've enjoyed my reaction video. I will see you in my next one.